Good morning, fish keepers. Cam here from thefishroom.co.nz. We've done it again. We've made it to Friday. Let's do coffee. That is a very good coffee, and I absolutely need it today. All right, so before we get our guests on, just quickly, a couple of bits of admin. So obviously, Waitangi weekend. So we are closed on Monday because it's a public holiday. The couriers aren't running. So we're closed up shop for that day, back to normal on Tuesday. And we also have our Waitangi weekend sale going with some pretty good bargains on there. Some rainbow fish that are ridiculously cheap, some really cheap gold corridors, and some other bits and pieces. So jump on board if you're looking for a bit of a bargain. And also don't forget it is Friday, so our Frozen Food Friday video is ready to rock and roll this afternoon. So that'll be out at about midday today. That's literally all the admin I've got. I just wanted to run through it as quick as I could. So let's bring up our guests. We've got John with us today, and we also have Nick from Keeping Fish Simple. Good morning and afternoon or evening, gentlemen.
Hi. Good afternoon.
Good. Thank you very much for joining us, Nick. Much appreciated. I know it's pretty early over there, so I appreciate you getting out of bed, and I'm sure you'll be supplementing with plenty of caffeine today.
No, all good, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate you asking me to come on, and I think if we can have a real good chat today about some fish and help some people out and all of that. So
cool. Hey, Jamie, how you doing, buddy? So I've got a list of things to go through. We'll just let the conversation flow how it wants to flow. But first of all, I've watched some of your previous videos, and I've noticed that you're a Brisbane Broncos supporter, and some of the things I've seen in the background.
Yeah.
Are you still a Broncos fan?
Yes. Sadly, so. Yeah, it's hard to be a Brisbane fan of any sport. I find that we're always the underdog, and then we're also not that good as of late. But yeah, I'm still a Broncos fan somehow. I've been watching the game since I was a little kid, and I don't watch everyone. Well, that's a lie. I pretty much do. It's like a bad addiction. But yeah, I do watch a lot of footy.
And the other non-fish related thing that I wanted to bring up before we get too far into it is when I first started watching you had this absolutely amazing slug on your face, and it's disappeared. What's going on?
Oh, what, my mo?
Yeah.
I think I just I think I had a look in the mirror, and then I kind of noticed what I looked like, and then I decided that I probably had enough of it. I kept it long enough. I kept it long enough to get through to my 21st birthday, and then after that, I just thought it was a bit redundant. And
you realised it was the best moustache on YouTube, eh?
Oh God, no, probably not, mate. It was a shocker. Yeah.
Okay.
It's real it was really waxy, and it wasn't real thick. It was just like a thin, waxy one. I was like, oh.
I loved it. Okay, so we can get into the fish chat now if you want. How did you start your aquarium keeping journey?
So my journey started like when I was 12. I moved into a new house, actually, which is this house now. I still live at home. I'm a big family guy, so I love being around all my family and all of that. But we moved in here, and then there was a creek across the road. I've always, I think like every other fish keeper, had some kind of interest in live animals, and specifically fish, little frogs, lizards, bugs, stuff like that. I was never really interested in like birds, or I love dogs. I'm allergic to cats, but yeah, things like that, like in the backyard. And then when we came here, there's a creek across the road, and it's like it's not a real creek. It's just some man-made, like storm drain. But in the creek, so I went across. In there was what I thought were guppies. So I caught a few of them out with like a bottle trap, and then put them in a tank. And they started having babies, and I was like, the next day there was babies in there. I was just like, that was like instantly it. And so because I thought they were guppies, I was looking up online, how do you care for guppies? And then I suddenly realized, these aren't guppies. Like, guppies actually have color. And I was raising gambusia. Yeah. So I was raising up little baby gambusia. Yeah. So not a great one, but and then from there it was like a few weeks until my birthday, my grandparents bought me a 10-gallon tank, like 40 liters, and then got that one, and then got another one. Started keeping fish, breeding, and then had a few tanks I got up to like 7 tanks in like a tiny room, and my room was always really hot and bubbly, but I just copped it. I didn't have aircon, so like I was just living with my fish, and then I think stopped doing that, and then took it a bit more seriously later on, like once I finished school, and started up my YouTube channel. And to be honest, I couldn't even tell you why I started it. Like, I had never started it to really do anything. Like, I think when I started, I knew that I've always made videos and that, and I kind of started it to supplement, like, because I posted a video when I was much younger, and I got a few views, and I knew that, like, if I could make enough videos, it would pay for my hobby. So like, it wouldn't cost me anything to keep fish, because at that time, like, when you're young, you don't make any money, and then you want to do all these things with like a pistos and things like that costs $45 each. So to someone who earns $15 an hour, and then most of the suppliers around you, it's like terrible fish, and then you buy them, and you got a good chance of losing them before you can even spend $100 on medication for them. It's like I was just trying to find a way to supplement that, and then so I started to make all these videos, and then they were getting some views, but then I more fell in love with the making of the video rather than like the result. So I just kept doing it, and then there was a tricky period about a year after school where like you'd have to, like, sounds like cliche, but like find yourself. And I think during that time it was like I didn't really know what I was doing. I was at uni, I didn't like it, and so I was trying out a bunch of different things. I was fixing. I started up. I've always been pretty entrepreneurial, so I started up a business, mowing lawns, and then that was just too much work. So then I started doing a business where I'd buy mobile phones and then flip them. So what I'd do is I'd buy them, change the screens up. Like I used to be able to fix like phones that were just completely dead, and then like take all the parts out, turn it into a new phone, and sell it. I was doing that, and then I stopped doing YouTube for like 2 or 3 months at that point. That was the only time where I stopped. Like the only 4 weeks where I didn't make a video for the past 4 or 5 years, I think. So every week since then I've made a video. And so I just got back into it after I don't really remember, and then started up then COVID hit. And I started the YouTube channel. I mean, not started the YouTube channel. Started the other fish room because I was just given a heap of time. So I just sat at home making a ton of videos. And then I was getting like extra money from ad revenue, obviously. And I thought, while I like breeding the fish, me and my dad sat down, did some maths, and we're like, oh, maybe I could open a shop. And it didn't make sense to open a shop. But I thought, he's like, well, you like breeding them. Why don't you start breeding them for money? And then we did the maths on that. And then we thought that could be cool. And I started up my first fish room. I actually still have that fish room. And then from the first fish room, it just eventually grew that one out. Now I'm in the second one with the shop at the front.
Yep.
So yeah, sorry, a bit of a long story. It took like a minute, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now.
Yeah, cool. So were you making videos before keeping fish, or is that kind of just working together? Yeah. So
like I was making videos, like they kind of worked in together, but I mean, when I was a kid, and like when I first got that aquarium obsession, like I'm the type of guy, like I've just got to be so careful with where I put my attention, because like I just go like ballistic, like I'll just explode with like excitement to do anything. And so like I was watching every single fish video, man, like everything. I didn't care if it had like 20 views. I didn't care if it had 100,000 or 1 million. If it had any relation to freshwater fish, I was watching it. I didn't really like African cichlids, but like I probably watched every single Rachel O'Leary video, watched like all the aquarium co-op videos. Like they were such a massive influence on me when I was younger. And then like, I think, but I was always making videos anyways. Like I've made little home movies and stuff, and like they're no good, but I still was always doing it. So it's kind of no surprise that I've ended up doing what I'm doing now. Because I've always just followed interests, which is like a really important thing I've learned. I think
absolute key.
You just combine your interests together, fish and video making. Boom.
And I've been so fortunate where, like, because I'm young and I've got, it's real supportive parents, I don't have a lot of overheads, so I've always been able to just like have some fallback. And so yeah, I've just always just followed interest. So I don't care if it didn't even make sense. If like in my gut I knew that there was some opportunity there, I felt like some resonance to it, I would just follow it. So it's the same with my fish keeping. Like, lately I've been feeling like, I want to follow down that rainbow fish path, and like I've been so interested and fascinated by it. Why continue to do the same things I've always done? Like, you can't make that up. So like I'll just follow that. And but yeah, so that's kind of how I've ended up now where I am.
You've got to follow the interest. That's important. Otherwise, you get bored and static, and you lose interest, and that's when you drift off into something completely different that you don't want to do, and you always wonder. And it's better to know that it didn't work than to wonder if it would have worked.
I'm so afraid of that, like regret. And I think maybe a little bit too much, like but yeah, I completely agree with you. It's like you don't want to question whether you should have done something. It's better to just like do it and take the loss
and learn from it.
Yeah, treat everything as an opportunity, even bad things. Like my friend Adrian, who's been in a few of my videos, he always says, and it's such a nice way of thinking, but I'm in the right place all the time, every time. So it's like, as long as I'm like just following my gut, making the right calls, what I think are the right calls, then I'm always in the right place where I'm meant to be. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's pretty wise and valid in throughout that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't mean to get all philosophical.
Just wait till you've got kids, Nick. We'll have that conversation when you've got kids.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
So has breeding fish always been your thing when it comes to keeping fish? Because like there's so many different avenues with fish keeping, like there's breeding or just keeping them, setting up biotopes. Like there's so many different ways that people can keep them. Has breeding always been your main interest?
So like I'd say 100%. When I was much younger, like 14, I played around with aquascaping. I was watching like I think it was Green Aqua or these like guys, and it was like it was like they were like these German dudes, and they had some amazing setups, man. And I was just blown away. I was like, whoa, I want that. I want like a HC cubic carpet and all this stuff. But as a young guy, those setups cost hundreds of dollars, and it's something you don't have. And back then, Corey was making all the breeding for profit things, and so I think that's kind of where it started. But then it's more like now the obsession of taking 2 fish and then turning it into like 1,000 fish. I find that really cool. So yeah, I've kind of always done it, and I think every time I buy fish, it's to breed them. So like I won't normally just buy stuff to like to look at it.
To enjoy.
Yeah. But I also have a massive appreciation for that. Like my friend Jason sets up awesome biotopes. Like just like honestly has the best biotopes, and I'm trying to get him to post more like of these like huge setups and how he does it all on YouTube. But like when I see that, it's like me and him, it just goes so well together, where it's like I breed the high quality fish, and we're like taking all these native fish, making sure they're locally bred, they're not taken from the wild, smash that into his biotope. It's like the coolest thing ever. But it's like full circle,
Yeah, I tried to get Jason onto one of these, but he wasn't so keen on showing his face, unfortunately. But
he'll hop on now, I reckon. If I talk to him and tell you guys are good. Yeah, 100%. I can convince him, surely. Yeah. I want to speak on behalf of him in case he doesn't want to hop on, but I'm sure I can convince him to get on.
Yeah, he does some beautiful work, like some phenomenal work.
You haven't even seen the tip of it. Like he seriously just he knows so much too. Like I've really gotten into collecting and all of that, and that's kind of where I want to take some of my YouTube videos. And without him, I wouldn't have been able to like start doing what I'm doing now, because like he walks around, he knows everything about everything, like the plants, the frogs, the snakes. He just likes freshwater ecosystems, and he also likes everything. Like anything you could see in a documentary, he'd love. So but again,
some of his photos and stuff that I've seen him post, absolutely amazing. Like, man has an incredible talent behind the camera.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as time goes on, if we can get him to get even like better gear, like the proper like $1,000 cameras, like he could do some amazing things with them. But yeah, he's a real good friend now, and someone that I've been able to meet through the shop, which is that's something interesting you would have noticed. It's like you can't quantify the connections you can make when you have something like a shop. Like I was like pretty distant from the hobby until I had the shop, and then now people walk in, they offer you fish, you start talking. Oh, you're breeding that? Oh, cool. Can I come check out your fish room? And then it goes further than that after. It's like, oh, like besides the fish, let's just be mates, and we're just having beers and talking and calling, and like, it's a real good community of people over here. And I didn't realize that until last year, kind of the end of last year.
I totally agree. There's people that I would never have known without keeping aquariums and keeping fish that I've now considered, proper friends and stuff like that, and have conversations totally irrelevant to fish. And then all of a sudden we'll talk about, hey, did you see that? And it's back into that fish topic again. Absolutely agree.
Awesome. And it's like, I think that's another way where like people avoid that. I hate saying burnout, because like I don't feel it, but like I think if you feel like you're not alone in some of the challenges through the hobby, that helps. Because like you got someone who everyone makes the same mistakes about fish. Like I screw up heaps, and like I just know because I've been around long enough that like everyone else does it, even if they say they don't.
Yeah, everyone makes mistakes.
I like the amount of time I talk so much fish, but the guy I was talking to yesterday is a fish farmer, friend of mine, and he's a bit older, and like we get along really well. But he I lost my train of thought. We were talking about just like fish keeping in general, and like how he makes mistakes still, and like I was talking about that too. And this is what I was gonna say. I said fish keeping's almost like gambling, and I don't gamble ever, because my obsessive mind, like I just couldn't. Like I'm pretty good at self-control, but I just don't even want to touch the stuff. Like I couldn't. But it's like everyone will tell you about their wins, but no one will tell you about their losses.
Yeah, very true.
Like people come in the shop and they'll tell you, "Oh, I bred the L333s," and man, they're easy, bro. Like I don't know, like I don't struggle with it at all. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't tell me that like you also screwed up and lost your first 10 batches, and that's why it's so important to be transparent, because then like hearing that you're like, oh, am I doing something wrong? Like
I think at least I personally believe the internet's been a really good thing for fish keeping, because prior to that it was very much an old boys network. I'm not going to tell you what's worked for me. You have to work it out yourself. Now people are really open to say, actually, I did this didn't work, but this worked, and then we did this, and this worked even better. And so more people are enjoying it for what it was, and it's not just this super secret that is ridiculous. It shouldn't be said.
Yeah, and like you hear people whinge and complain about information on the internet. It's like I got mates who hate the internet, and they talk about, oh, it's the worst thing that's ever happened. It's like the information on the internet's horrible. It's like, yeah, all right, yeah, it's like horrible to you, but like most of the time, someone like you hasn't been around for like, you're not. A lot of people aren't involved in that inner fish world, where I can just lean on a discus breeder and he can tell me everything he knows. Like the average person has to go through all those challenges themselves and figure out what the heck's going wrong. Like, how do I do a potassium permanganate treatment? There's nothing online. The only way you can learn is crowdsourcing, and that a lot of that information is crowdsourcing. So like, a lot of it could just be complete like other shit, but like a lot of it's really good, and like that's just part of the hobby.
Yeah. Of course, yeah.
Constant battle with nature.
I just want to touch on something that Shelley said a little bit earlier. I think we both know this is probably true. So I do agree with you. We all know most people that run fish shops are so they can't be accused of fish hoarding. I think it's a relatively valid comment.
Do you find yourself hoarding fish?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, because
often I'll bring fish in to sell, and I'll look at them and go, man, these are really, really cool. How many did I buy? How many can I keep for myself? And how many can I sell? And then all of a sudden, so maybe I'll just keep all of these for myself. Yeah.
I found like myself really doing that at the start, like because I was so new to wholesale lists, and but something I've had to be really careful of is taking on too many things, and like it's so easy to collect, and then you collect too many things, it becomes overwhelming. You don't like it, so I've had to be so careful as well with that, like not overspending on things that don't sell. Like you feel like your shop needs to have one of every single fish, but you realize that your customers don't want one of every single fish. They come to you for a few select things, and that's it. So like my customers come in for like endlers, like high quality endlers, premium bedders. They come in for all the nano things, and I bought like, wholesalers talk you into buying all this stuff. They just want to sell their fish, and that's I get that. But I bought like a bunch of red tail sharks and all this stuff, and I just cannot move them. Hey, like I've sold like 5 African cichlids in my shop, and I got 2 tanks full of them. Like,
and it also depends on where you align yourself as well. Like I've got a tank full of green terrors. I've just managed to sell them yesterday, which I'm really thankful for. But they're basically holding up tank space. But I don't align in the bigger American cichlid world. But I'm sure if I did, then they would probably move a lot quicker. So, I totally agree.
You gotta like choose a niche.
Exactly. That's what I was just about to say. Well, if you can find a niche and tap into that community, then by tapping into that community, you learn more about the niche and more about what the fish are. And the more you learn, the more you sell, and feeding off that, whilst catering for the peripheral at the same time. But having that niche is definitely the key.
Like you just otherwise you can be like, what is it? A jack of all trades but a master of none. Is that the saying? It's so I'm lucky where like my shop is very directed at like whatever the videos are making. So like if we make a lot of videos on like nano fish, which we've done, everyone comes in for nanos. But like if they come in and then we've been talking about like rams and whatever, and then they see African cichlids, it's like they're not there to buy African cichlids. The amount of people who come into my shop to just like browse, like I haven't been here long, so like they don't just come in like every Friday, like, and they come in for some reason, like because it's a specialist shop, and if they see African cichlids and I've never talked about them ever, they're not going to buy them. It's part
it'd be the same way as if you had an African cichlid shop and you had a whole bunch of corridoras, for example, they probably wouldn't move because the people there are African keepers and that's what they're after.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, totally agree. Just back to your breeding. What's your favourite fish to breed and play with?
I used to have favourites, but now it's a bit hard because like honestly, like my favorite fish would definitely still be zebs, right? Like because they're still cool, haven't bred them, and like they're kind of like I don't know, they just look the coolest. But I don't really have favorites, but I really like rainbows at the moment, and
they're
like
so
really
slept on.
Sorry,
they're so slept on, rainbow fish.
Oh, I know, and I think my goal is to try and promote them a bit better. Everyone whinges about them and says, they're not that cool and they need to be in breeding colors. I'm like, well, get them in breeding colors, mate. Like if you're not keeping them in breeding colors, they're not happy because they're really easy to breed. So, people whinge about that. They're like, oh, they're colorless fish unless they're breeding and the females don't look good. I'm like, yeah, you have to get the female. Like it's a colony fish. You have to get a big school of them and keep them in. You can keep them in a 2-footer, but they're so you're right. They're so slipped on, and there's hundreds of different types. Like,
and I think also because like shops sell them at a very small stage when they are drab and colourless. Give them 4, 5, 6 months when they're at home and they're settled in. Bang.
That's like people like my fault, because people who produce them, well, they're not really a commercially viable fish unless the price goes up, because they take 8 months, 9 months to color up, whereas like an angelfish takes 2.5 to 3. So it's like I could turn over 3 batches of angels in the same time I could do 1 batch of really good Bosmanis. I'm trying to just kind of take a bit of that, like just take the hit with that and make some really good rainbows and try and just see if I can enter the market at a bit of a higher price, but enter with the best quality. But yeah, like a lot of people just will sell you silver little fish that are this big. And then shops don't do a good job either. Like I'm pretty lazy with my shop, but I've set it up well where like I know things will do good in there. But people keep them in blue tanks with white substrate, and like it's going to be really hard for them to color up, especially when they get thrown in with like other random fish they would never see in the wild. You really need them by themselves or with other rainbows. And but yeah, they're so slipped on. Like
I had a similar conversation yesterday in a fish shop over here. We were talking about Galaxy Rasporas. He's got a mature display tank. There's nothing's for sale in it, but it's fully planted. It's jam-packed with everything. And they look absolutely out of this world in this tank. Dark substrate, dark back, and crypts and everything. But they had just got a new batch in. They were in one of the selling tanks for about 2 weeks. And that's, like you said, it's the blue background and white substrate. And they look so bland and grey. They look like different fish.
Yeah.
Different fish. Luckily, they turn around and say, well, this is what they will look like. But, you know, if you don't have that, then how do you expect to sell a fish when it doesn't look like what it should look like?
Yeah, and especially when you do need to get the fish and breeding colours. Like we sell, there's this Herbert axelrod. They're such a cool rainbow. So cool. And they're like gold, with like a big black stripe, basically. And they don't look like that unless you can get them in breeding colours. So in all of our tanks in the shop where we have rainbows, tank's black, bare bottom, and I throw a spawning mop in there and I feed them like with a ton of live food. And I just really try and get them to be displaying. So we turn the lights on at about like 9 o'clock and then they start coloring up. So if people come in at 10 or 11, they're normally flaring up to each other, and that just helps so much with the sale. But yeah.
Live food is key. Shelley mentioned a little while ago, and without doubt, live food makes pretty much every fish look amazing, but I think it also helps for the general care of them. But as a retailer, and for them people buying with their eyes, live food is worth everything for the fish health and for the saleability.
Man, like I couldn't live food. You couldn't breed fish without it. I think, like, you know, you can breed guppies and stuff, but even them, you need the brine shrimp. We actually ship in blackworms weekly, and that's a bit of a struggle here because just the temperature gets so hot and they need to be cold. So it's real hit and miss whether we get them. But when we get them, we smash our cories with them. The plecos love them. The rams love them. Everything loves them. And like, it just helps so much. Like, you can tell the difference straight away. But we were breeding pea puffers here. I don't know if you can get pea puffers over your way.
I wanted to bring up this topic. Great. Yep. Continue.
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Pea puffers in there.
Yeah. So do you have pea puffers in NZ?
Yep. Yeah. About $20 a pop.
Okay, cool. Can they be imported or?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because here, I think that's the issue, that they just can't be brought in. And obviously, I think, like, as if I'm being totally honest, I reckon someone smuggled them in. But then, like, who knows who's done it? The story is that they've been around the hobby forever. Yeah, the story is they've been around the hobby since they were banned to be imported. But they're in this funny grey area where, like, you can import them, but I mean, you can't import them, but you can keep them. So then whatever's here is here. So then, like, what would happen is if the DPI came to me, they'd look at my record and go, oh, who'd you buy them from? And I'd have an invoice, and then they go to them, and then they go to them. it's gone too far where like people wouldn't even have a clue where they come from now. But yeah, no, they're coming down. Like my wholesale price for them, I think is about $50, and in store we're selling them for $150 or $120 or something like that.
So saw that last night, yeah.
Yeah, they're really expensive still. So I reckon it'll come down to about $20. That'd be a great price for them, I think.
I think it's a fair price for them, totally. Yeah. But if you can't get them, they're not being easily bred, there's only X amount around, then that's how prices stay up. Have you bred them yourself?
Yeah, so luckily I did. I bought 10 about this time last year, kind of maybe March last year, I mean, and then they cost me $2 and a bit grand, and I was like, it was one of those impulse buys where I was like, oh, I just want to see them. I grew them up, and then I didn't think they were breeding or anything, and then all of a sudden I just started seeing babies in the tank, and they're in with endlers and stuff. I was like, oh, cool, so they're breeding. So that's a really good sign to start doing something with them. Basically what I was doing is we'd ship in the blackworms, so I'd just throw a handful of blackworms, like a ton, and I'd have 10 in the tank, and then a lot of people have like aggression with them. So if they keep like one or two of them, like there'll be one dominant male or a subdominant male, and then they just get out of each other and kill each other. So my males have been real nice, real well behaved, and there's plenty of hiding places in the moss and all that stuff. But I haven't had any issues with that. I've still got all 10. So put them in a big school, big ton of Java moss. Like you need the whole bottom covered basically, and you throw a ton of live food. So Daphne would be great, but I found the worms to be really fatty and help them to make the eggs. And then they get really, really bloated and fat, and that's when they start breeding. They prefer it a little bit warmer, so like they won't breed in 22 degrees. You got to get them up to like 24, 28. And then you leave them for 7 days, and they'll just start breeding. You'll have probably, if you buy 10, you'll probably end up with like 3 or 4 males because of the chemicals they release to make males in the tank. So like, I think when you get them, they're unsexed, and as they grow, the first one to become male releases a toxin into the water that turns all the other ones female. So you'll end up with that many. And then what I was doing is just literally just take them 7 days, next tank, 7 days, next tank. And that was working like crazy well. We got probably over 200 of them in a pretty short period of time while I was building the fish room. It was the only thing I was breeding. And that shows you when you focus on something, you can make it really happen. But too many things, I want to be able to do it. But we made a few of them, and then we still got heaps. But that's all I was doing. And then we got into the new fish room, and I kind of took it for granted that they were breeding so well. And I just couldn't get them to breed again for ages because we kept them at the old room, and I was never there, and I didn't see them or anything like that. We've just got them back to the new room, and they've started laying properly, and we've got a few babies. So the key with them is
do they egg scatter in the plants?
They like go in, as far as I know, and then they just like CPD sort of.
Yeah.
I don't think they're nest brooders. Like I don't think that they take care of their babies. Yeah. As far as I know.
Yeah.
But you do need small food.
Yeah, that was my next thing. What are you using to raise the fry? I'm assuming it would have to be a small micro worm or a vinegar eel or something like that.
I think they'd like that. Normally, I just a real good tip is if you got babies, is just take a really old sponge filter from a healthy tank and just squeeze the crap out of it, get all the mold out into the water, and I'll just have enough infusoria for them to live on until they're big enough to eat brine. So we'll just do stuff like that. Basically just feed them mud. Like there's no way to describe it. Like you just got to feed them like aged mud, and then they do okay. But they're like, you need brine shrimp and you need blackworms, and that's like, I think a big problem with people. People would pay the price for a pea puffer. Like they pay $100 if they knew it would eat flakes, but they got to come back and they got to buy blackworms and they got to buy brine shrimp, and like they're really hard to keep fat and full and healthy. So I think amateurs won't be able to breed them the same way.
Do you have any record on like what your water pH was or anything like that, or was it?
Yeah, I had some theory that they were breeding only when it was hot, and I had some other theory that they were seasonal. So, like, there's still not a lot known, and I'm still not an expert at it, and I wouldn't even say that I'm proficient at breeding them. But 7.6 pH is okay, 7.2. They probably prefer kind of alkaline rather than acidic. And then 200 parts per million in the water. Just general tap water is what I use. I mean, our tap water is pretty stable, so they breed better than that.
Nothing specific to that. No real triggers. Just make them happy.
We had rainwater in the fish room, and we were doing rainwater, and they were laying, but none of the eggs were hatching. So then I was like, oh, I reckon that there's something going wrong here where the eggs aren't they might not be forming their shell properly, and they might be getting attacked by stuff. So like you need that mineral, I think to harden up the shell. I'm not a scientist, so yeah.
So Sue runs an aquarium store up in the North Island from me. So she basically wants to know what size are your 10 puffers on, essentially.
Sorry, I keep blowing my nose. I just don't want to keep it on. I'm muting it so it's not disgusting. But so the only size tanks I keep are 4 foots and 2 foots. So they're 60 centimeter tanks. I do all the pea puffers in them, and I even grow them out in that.
They're the Blue Planet ones, though.
Yeah, actually they are. They're 80 liters. So you don't want them in too big of a space. Like they'll just miss each other and forget about breeding. And you really do need males to back females into corners almost. And I think it helps a bit with them. Another thing people like that I learnt from breeding fish is you need them to be in a tank with covered sides. So like having a nice black tank and just turning, or like if you're a freshwater fish enthusiast, I feel like most people should paint their tanks black because like black is all you would see outside of where you are in a freshwater ecosystem. You wouldn't see blue, you wouldn't see white. Black's a really good color. It makes all the fish look really natural. And yeah, I just, even the viewing panel, if I could do it my way, I'd block them all up, but then you wouldn't be able to see them.
Yeah.
You know.
I always thought green was a pretty good color, especially
green's a great one too.
Plants, because you'd see a lot of green shadows. So I thought that green was real. You're probably quite
green's
right. A lot of whites and a lot of blues. It would be blacks and possibly maybe browns and greens and stuff like that.
I think green's a better one, but it looks dirty. I think.
Yes.
So it's hard to tell when it's clean if you've got a breeding room where you need to keep it sterile. But like for someone who really wants to breed something, green would be a great color.
Brian has asked us a question. Do you consider pseudomugles? I'm really rubbish at saying words that I can't read.
Pseudomugles. Yeah, I think that's it.
As rainbow fish.
I think the name in pseudomogul, so like pseudo probably means fake, and mogul must mean fish. I've got no clue. I'm not like a genius, right? But like in the name itself, it almost seems like it's a false something. Yeah. But no, I definitely do not. Have you ever kept them?
The fork tails, yeah?
Yeah, there's fork tails, then there's spotteds.
Yeah.
Red
I've kept a couple different species of them, yeah.
They're another one that's like slipped on. They're so cool. But I don't consider them to be rainbows at all, and they're not scientifically rainbows. I've actually got a poster here. It's massive, so I'll show you. I got this for Christmas, and it's done by an artist. We haven't hung it up yet. But have a look at this.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
It's like got all the different species of it. Cool. But right down the bottom, it's got the different pseudomoguls down here. So there's threadfin rainbows, but then you got like all your spotters and stuff. Like where are we looking?
Pacific blue eyes and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, so they're not rainbows, but they live in the same ecosystem. So you'll find rainbows and blue eyes together.
Right, okay. I think they're another one that really, really go well on having live food. Keeping a general aquarium, feeding them flakes and small pellets and stuff. Yeah, as soon as you start giving them a bit of live food, they just come to life.
Definitely. Something with them, you can get away with a really easy live food. Just do microworm cultures. Because
microworms are great.
Yeah, for them. I don't like using it for other stuff because it just smells and like it's really hard to like because they're always so tiny. They always eat it. Like, but I don't really use it. But I found it to be like I've gotten them from people who just like don't feed them live food, and then when I get them, when I get them in a tank and I start feeding them live food, they were eating so much that they gorged themselves to death.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but those microworms help heaps. Like with fish like that, they're nice and fatty, and I don't feel like they could gorge themselves to death on microworms. But
yeah,
they're another one that's like slipped on. Next month, I'm actually not this like 2 weeks time. I'm going to Cairns to collect some of them. So yeah, we're gonna collect some spotted blue eyes and then see the whole environment and where they live and all that stuff would be really cool.
There's a lot of rainbow fish native to Australia, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's there's not you won't find any of the like we've got amazing rainbows, like really really colorful, awesome ones, but like Praycocks, Bosmani, salmon reds, they're all New Guinea, like so we don't get any of that stuff. But I think the best looking ones, like we have the best I think we have some of the best pseudomogals. But the best one I think is like Goiter Rivers.
Mm-hmm.
Like a trifasciata one, they probably look the best. Some of the Skull Creek rainbows are pretty cool. But yeah, they're everywhere. Like we have Dublaya's in every single healthy ecosystem around me. We've got ornate rads, which we're going to go collect this weekend, and make a video on that. There's all these natives like to this area, so no one really talks about them in the hobby. They're easy to breed, and they look amazing.
Are you allowed to catch them and sell them from wild, or do you need licenses for natives?
I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know, but you're allowed to take out of certain species. There's a legal bagging limit of about 20, or it is 20. So you can have 20 of each species, and you're allowed to go out and collect that as long as you're not collecting in national park. So like if I collect on private property, I can collect them. So what we'll normally do is if I'm hunting for a species, we'll find somewhere there's a population of them outside of national park. And then as long as it's like a big abundant population, we'll take a few specimens. Like I never take 20. I normally take like 6. It's all you need. You only want to just start them. Or if I can find them from someone else, I'll buy them. I don't want to. But you want to, with all your locales of rainbows, you want to keep them separate because they all have different colors. So like I could find a rainbow fish, the exact same Dublayi, North Brisbane. It's going to be heaps more red than one in South Brisbane, which is blue. And they look like different fish, but they're the exact same species.
Wow.
So
brilliant.
Yeah, you got to be really, really careful with all your collection points. So, but
different coloration, different feeding, or different what they're naturally eating, I'd assume.
I think they've been separated so long that that's how I feel like they all started from like 1 or 2 species, and then they've just kind of developed from there. Okay. And then as water's dropped or raised, they've mixed and then dropped down again over millions of years. So you go to private property, you can collect up to 20, and then if you go back and you've still got 20 at home, you can't collect anymore.
Oh.
But you can't sell any that you catch. You can only breed the ones you catch, and you can sell the babies, but you cannot sell the ones you catch.
You can't sell the wild caught, you can sell your F1.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can only hold 20 at a time, regardless of how many times you've been harvesting. Okay, cool. Well,
as far as I understand, I think that's the rules, and we're very careful about where we collect. And I think we made a video collecting some, like one of my first collecting videos. It came across more that we were pilfering an area, and something that we did wrong. That area was already ruined by the government. Like there was tractors and stuff there. Like it was already been dredged and stuff. It was terrible, but we still had fun doing it. We released the location of that spot, and like that video ended up getting a couple 100,000 people watching it. And apparently apparently heaps of people went there after us and just filled the area, chucked in nets, and you're only allowed to put 2 nets in or 4 nets per group. They're throwing in like 10 and just absolutely just smash the area up. So in future we have to be really careful with where like we disclose stuff, because these videos are really popular. I've found like people really like watching them, and I feel like I do a decent job presenting them. So
you just think you've got to be mindful of having a large audience that people go, wow, that's the place to go. Yeah.
Have you ever thought about doing a biotope of one of these places?
I think maybe at some point. I'm just not artistic enough I don't think, to do it. Like I don't have the eye for it. Like I might. I'm not going to say that I don't, but I'm nowhere near as good as like someone like Jason. I'd way rather.
Biotope, though, it doesn't have to look like an aquascape. Most biotopes are muddy and messy looking, and that's the appeal for a lot of people. So
I think I will at some point. Like, I've talked to my girlfriend, and when we get our place at some point, I want to have this huge tank, and I want it to be a biotope, but I want to have like 200 little pseudomoguls in there, and just turn it into like something completely different. Because you see neon tetras, you see all this stuff, but you don't see stuff like that. But I'd rather, at this point, I just don't have a place for a biotope or some kind of aquascape in my fish room. It's just too much to maintain, because like it's a different maintenance than it is for like a breeding tank, for instance. Like someone else can just go around and clean them for me. So at some point, but I'd rather just honestly leave it up to Jason or someone else like that and watch them do it, or record it if I wanted to do something like that. But I still love them. Like that's part of enjoying the fish, is having them in a tank that looks like they were in the wild.
Totally agree. Just quickly back to the rainbows. Is there a market for your native species, like selling wise, or because you can catch it, do people just catch them if they want them?
Yeah, like locally we don't sell many Duboulet eyes, but so Duboulet eyes are the crimson spotted rainbows. But they're not a very popular one because they are so abundant. So no, I wouldn't say much of a market. So I've only done one batch of the ones I caught, and if I can't sell them, I'll just end up giving them away. But for instance, at the moment, they put a ban on any of your ponds, like they put a ban on having any non-foreign species in ponds here in Brisbane or in Queensland, I think. So like you can't have a goldfish pond in your yard in case it floods and the goldfish get out into the river. So the only thing you can have is native species to the area. So like basically what you're allowed is Pacific blue eyes, like crimson spotted rainbows, some gudgeons and stuff like that. You're not allowed anything else. So we've noticed in the shop that a lot of people are coming for blue eyes because they're really cool. So we've been selling a lot of blue eyes, but we don't really bother producing those because they breed really well in ponds. We don't have ponds at the fish room, and like we can just get them for a couple of bucks from wholesale, or I normally find I've got a local breeder guy who has a big dam of them. He just chucks in a net, catches out a few, and then we sell them.
Yeah. Sometimes the cost for what it's worth doesn't come with spawning some fish.
Yeah, like yeah, exactly. Some of the other ones, like people are convinced they do okay outdoors in winter, like spotted blue eyes and stuff. You don't find them this low down in Queensland. Like it gets to like 8 degrees overnight. I think that's too cold for them. Yeah. We produce those in the tanks out the back, and we don't make massive amounts of them, but I think they're more viable, and we can produce them year round because we can keep the fish room hot. So they're worth doing. But like Pacifics, they'll go okay outside in winter, and I can't be bothered making them, honestly.
Yeah. Susan's just said she loves the rule that you can't keep non-natives. I think that's quite a logical rule, especially with waterways that can store and maintain populations of wild fish if they get out and destroy your lecos.
I'm a fan of it, but I'm also not a fan of it in a way of like it takes one or two idiots to completely ruin something for everyone.
Totally.
I think governments don't really do a good job of the rules don't apply to them, but they apply to us. So the amount of shit that they ruin is like unbelievable. Like they're the ones who are up on about, oh, we have to do this and all of this, like, climate change and all this stuff. The amount of shit that they ruin, like all of our ecosystems around here in Brisbane, they put a big dam in and there's fish just floating at the top because there's no dissolved oxygen, there's no flow. It's like, it's the most like, and then they ban people from keeping goldfish in their ponds. It's like, okay, right, I can understand banning people keeping goldfish in ponds. Let's make a rule where like we set a flood map or something. Like I'm not going to protest this or anything, but like I feel like it'd be more sensible to set a rule of like a flood map of where it's likely to flood, and then you have to keep the fish of a certain height above that flood range, where like that's not really a risk. And then
that makes sense. But like, I'm not sure if you're aware, here in New Zealand, last week Auckland went under a pretty major flood, sort of washing cars away, sort of thing. So like, freak things can happen, and that, I know it's not a common thing, but then that kind of ruins, or that thought pattern disappears at the same time.
Yeah, it does, and I think like that comes down to, I think maybe in above ground ponds you should be allowed to keep them. I don't know. I don't know the rule down to a T, but I think stopping people doing stuff sometimes isn't the best thing. A lot of people do responsibly keep natives outside, so they might not be keeping something local to that area, but they might be keeping, for instance, Skull Creek rainbows in their backyard. Right now, they're not allowed to do that. And then let's say the government goes up to Skull Creek and ruins up that system. Then we lose that fish to extinction because no one can keep them in aquaria. So, I think it's better to, like, the government's always just done this. They've always just like said no to pets, no to playing with like fish and bringing in species and all this stuff. And it's only going to get worse. Like, they say, oh, okay, we'll ban the species that can come in, but we'll allow you to have 15. It's like, cool. All right, we're allowed 15. And then 10 years passes. Oh, now you're only allowed 5. And then what? And then you're not allowed any? Like, can only keep natives? Like, it doesn't make sense. They just promote a smuggling market. Like, and then you get irresponsible people bringing in diseases and like having to smuggle in fish. Like, it's a
rolling issue regardless of which way you do it as well. And there's probably no right or wrong answers.
Yeah, I know. It's a frustrating one.
Yeah.
I used to probably be of the group of people that would say that's the responsible thing to do. But I think as I've become more involved with the community, I think it's actually more irresponsible to do. The more responsible thing to do would be to properly manage species. Like, you should have to buy a permit, the same maybe as a reptile, to have a pond, and you pay $30 a year to have a pond, and then they can monitor people who can come and check out your pond and make sure it's of regulation.
Can you imagine the amount of people going, just another government money-making scheme, why are they regulating this, blah, 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 which would happen as well.
I think
if you're serious about taking a pond, then you're not going to bother, because if you're serious about setting up a pond, you're going to understand the value of having a license. So
most of the people who have ponds have turtles, and they have to buy a license for the turtle anyways here. Mm-hmm. So I know people still do that, but I think it's better to pay for the luxury of having pond. Like, you shouldn't have to pay per pond. You should just pay $30 to have the pond license or something like that. And then you're allowed to have like whatever, and then they can come and check you whenever. Like, I just think that banning it completely isn't a good thing. It sounds good. People who are bureaucrats and in government think it's a good idea because they don't keep fish. They don't understand how it all works. But like, people who are keeping things like running river rainbows, when some idiot releases a bunch of eastern rainbows into the running river and then they start crossbreeding and you just lose that species completely, there's no one to turn to like go and repopulate that, except for hobbyists. So if people are thinking outside. I
guess it's just a topic that we're passionate about. But the same argument can be had with nearly anything when it comes to government bureaucracy and how it works. It's just we're micro-focused on aquariums and waterways and stuff.
It's the only thing I bother putting a little bit of thought into. I try not to I try not to focus on things that I can't control. So
100%, it'll just lead you down a rabbit hole.
I feel like if I've got a platform now, I can kind of talk about it a little bit more and raise some awareness to it. But I still can't control it. I'm not the government, and I'm not going to protest it. I don't have time. So
just totally off topic. Just back to breeding.
That's what people are here for, I guess, to learn about breeding and stuff.
What's the hardest fish that you have managed to breed? Or maybe one that you're struggling with.
Yeah, well, I'm struggling with the peas still. CPDs, like I've had success with them, but like getting them in large numbers is a trick.
Yeah.
We're going to try a few different methods for that. There's like, plecos, like I've struggled a lot with plecos. They come across as something easy. Like you breed your bristlenose, you go, this is a piece of cake. And then you go, it should be the same for your L numbers, right? Loricariids, or however you say it. But when it boils down to it, they're completely different organisms. And I found that they're just a real fussy fish. Unless you can leave them, like I think they're a great hobbyist one to produce. Like if you're a guy and you've got a fish room with 15 tanks, you should 100% be making L numbers because they don't take a lot of space and you can dedicate the time that they need and the attention that they need. But in a fish room with like 250 tanks, they just get lost. I've gotten them to breed. They're unpredictable with their breeding. So that makes them a pain for commercial production. Like they're just like, you breed them, you get a lot of money, but then you can't replicate it as easily. Like there's people overseas like Pleco Ceramics and stuff, absolute geniuses. Like they nail it. And they've got whole fish rooms designated to it. So they can control the room temperature. They know exactly what the TDS of the water is all the time, every time. Like write down all the factors. I can't do that. I just didn't set my room up right for it.
Yeah.
But like even coming down and getting the eggs, it's like you take those eggs out and then you put them in another tank, and you raise them up and you start losing them because they need the bacteria from the parents to start their little guts. So like there's all these little tricks and stuff that like, and because they're not a commonly talked about YouTube fish, you don't really know until you start really talking to other pleco breeders who've made all these mistakes.
What I've always thought about plecos, very much like the aquarium hobby, is because they hide so much, you could have a room full of plecos and not tell anybody much like a pleco because you can't see them. And that's the real intricate thing that I think about L numbers and L number keepers is like there could be rooms full of them and people just, that's it. No one even knows ever about it. And it's just like, I've got a tank full of them and you never ever see them.
But this is where my best friends come in, the rainbows. Rainbows love fast flowing water, most of them. And they don't mind it when it's really hot with the plecos. They prefer it to be a little bit colder, but they will do well in 28 degrees. You throw a group of red rainbows up the top, they're going to be your dither fish. They're going to lay eggs every day and feed the plecos. It's like, I'm telling you, they're just such a slept on fish. Like, so
do they build the confidence in the L numbers to bring them out a little bit more? Or
I feel like they would. I used to keep them in with mine and they were breeding together and they're both breeding at the same time. I don't keep them together now because for creating the flow in the pleco systems, you think about putting a power head in the corner and then blowing water across the front of the tank.
Yeah.
We don't do that. We just have like two big air stones in the back and they're just blowing bubbles around. So it's just like kind of chaotic. I don't think that the rainbows wouldn't like that. So I don't bother keeping them in there, but that could be a factor too. It's like, maybe I don't have enough dither fish in my pleco tanks. It's like, that's why I'm not producing it. I don't know. Like, it's just.
You mentioned Pleco Ceramics before. Have you used their products?
I haven't. No. I've actually talked to Yuri, and despite my parents' approval and my girlfriend's approval, I definitely want to go across and see him in Ukraine. At some point, he's invited me to his fish room. So, but he said he was going to send me some of their stuff. I haven't used the ceramics. I'm sure they're good ceramics, but when it comes down to it, like, I don't think using a specific ceramic is going to make a difference to whether the pleco is going to breed. Like, having a variation of different caves would probably be the best thing. But
we had Yuri on 8 months ago now.
I saw that.
Phenomenal mind when it comes to L numbers, Absolutely.
He's an absolute genius with it.
Yeah.
Because he's obsessed. You know what I mean? That's what you need. You need to be obsessed.
He's just niched down to what it is that he wants to do, and nothing else matters in the aquarium world.
Yeah, I know. And it's like that's where I'm a bit of a funny situation where like I'm like a influencer. Like I hate saying that, but like it's kind of turned into that. It's like I can't just be the one pleco guy. Like, and I don't want to be. I want to do one of everything. Like, so I have a bit of a Noah's Ark breeding room. But he's got like, you know, the designated one and like let's do Zebs.
Yeah. So what's the market like for plecos over there? Like a friend of mine lives over there and said they're really either expensive or hard to get for the best part because there's a lot of laws and legislation about bringing them in. And he came back here for a few years and he was like, oh my gosh, I'm only paying X amount for whatever fish he was buying. And he was, you know, over the moon with it.
The market here is expensive. And yeah, you can't bring in any plecos. You can't even bring bristlenose in, except you're allowed to bring like clown plecos in, like the 168s or something like that, because some guy in government paid to get them approved because he liked them apparently. But yeah, it's like really, really expensive and very hard to get your hands on them because like Zebs here are $900 a baby. It's a lot of money, you know. So yeah, the market's crazy. Like, I feel like I don't know. Like we've had 007s in the store for a while. I don't know if the retail market's there. I think it's a insider group sort of thing. So for us, for us as a store, it's like unless we can get a pleco for $40 and sell it for 80 and compete with the people who are selling them privately, we won't sell them.
Yeah, okay.
It's just so all those 007s I'll probably just grow up and sell privately to someone if I can't move them or. But that's another learning curve, you know.
Yeah, and again, I think pleco keepers are reclusive, quite reclusive, much like the plecos are themselves.
I found that
very much niche group with them. Yeah. Unless you're looking at some of the slightly bigger ones, like the cactus plecos or sunshines that people keep with their bigger fish in their display tanks, like arowanas and stuff like that. When you get into the tall species, it's very much a closed door sort of. I've got this, and no one needs to know sort of scenario.
Yeah, 100%.
Have you got a fish on your list that you haven't ticked off yet that you really want to do?
Yeah. I think. Well, probably I just spent the whole time talking about rainbows, but there's a few of those that I'd like to get my hands on and breed. There's like these pretty cool ones I've seen over in the States. I don't know whether there's even any. I don't think there is any here, but they're these Kalitawa ones. Okay. They're like a little like nano rainbow, and Hoon Aquatics. I messaged him once or twice. He's got a group of them over in Seattle in the States. They're insane. They look so cool. They're pretty cool. I don't know. I think at the moment, my focus has been on breeding what I've got. And there's not really anything that like crazy that I want to try at the moment because I just want to get into like enjoying what I have at the moment, breeding it. And then I really have liked going around and traveling and exploring the ecosystems, and I've liked doing tours of people's fish rooms as well, and like checking out their setups and talking to them about their stories. And so like, yeah, there's probably not that many things where I'm like, oh, I can't wait to get that in regards to fish. It's right now, it's like, I can't wait to get there and see it, sort of.
Cool.
So yeah, because like if you asked me 2 years ago, I'd have been like, oh, Zebs, I can't wait to get Zebs. Now you've got them, and I'm just trying to eventually wait till they spawn until I like into it, or I don't know what.
It's a time game with them. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, they're all ready. You know what I mean? So I think I've got all males.
Yeah.
But
no.
Yeah.
That's not going to have you success, right?
Nah.
Is there Is there a bit of that over there? Like people will sell groups of fish, but they'll only sell males, for example, to try and hold on to that. 'Cause I know that happens.
Yeah, this is the problem when you get these insider markets. You get real dodgy people. I got scammed for Zeps. I lost $4,500 because some guy who's a private breeder was running around inside of this ring of pleco guys and pretending to act as a seller and using other people's photos and other people's identity. And he was just saying, "Oh yeah, you know." And when you buy fish, it's not like you can't buy them through a PayPal. You know, you can't do anything. It's you send the money and you cross your fingers and you hope that, like, because it's a small circle of people, for the most part, you just trust that people, like you know most of the people. You've talked to them about stuff before. So this guy kind of came across as one of those dudes, and you just send the money. You don't get them. So, and then like you go to auctions, and people have that same problem with their rainbows. I bought a group of rainbows at a fish auction, and they were improperly bagged or whatever. But like, I bought 15 Parkinsoni rainbows, and the females don't have the color.
Amazing. Anyway,
sorry. Yeah, they're so cool. But the females aren't. You know, you need the females to make the males amazing. But I bought 15 of them. They were all female. I was like, oh, great. Like, so some guy dropped. I've got a really good guy local to me who helps me out with mops and things like that, and we just nerd out over our rainbows. And he dropped me off a few males to help me out, and I'll just give them back to him in a month or so once I got a few batches coming through. But yeah, all the time.
They've been here. I don't know if they're still here, but if they're not here now, I don't believe they'll ever come back here.
I think
they're one of those fish that I'm on the hunt for. If I can find them, I would absolutely take them.
They're cool as they're really cool. And in person, they're like live up to that expectation of what they're meant to look like.
I've seen them in the flesh once, and I wasn't really into community fish or anything like that at the time. I was really into African cichlids, and I was like, whoa, that is just a phenomenal fish. I need to find them. Then I heard the story that they may or may not be here anymore, and I was like, oh, well, that's not much fun, but yeah.
The good thing about rainbows too is like, you don't need to buy a colony to start up your group. Something I really like is that I could just have a colony going. I can just preserve them, and I can sell eggs out of that colony because they take about 10 days to hatch. So what I can do is take eggs out of the mop and then send them to another person. They hatch them and raise them for 9 months. You don't have to actually buy a group. You can just buy $50 worth of eggs, and you can end up with $500.
I did see that you were selling eggs on your website, which I thought was really interesting. So I'm assuming you send them in a plastic bag full of water like your fish.
Yeah, that's how I've done it. I only sold one pack of eggs, and I think that also kind of didn't come across the right way in that video that I made, because it looked like we'd gone out, looked like we'd just taken fish out of the wild, and then it looked like I was just using them for my profit. It's like, no, the reason I'm doing that is if there's someone else who wants to have this specific line instantly, we've already got someone else who's got them, so we don't have to go and collect them again. It's like sending eggs is the easiest thing, because otherwise I have to grow them up, and then there's the risk in 5 months we lose all the group, or then it's just a complete waste. It's like, okay, let's just get a few mops of eggs out to people. Someone's going to pay $50. It pays for like the mop, it pays for my time to pick the eggs out and send them. It's not like I'm making copious amounts of money out of abusing fish. It's like, I would never do that. It's like, I respect the animals too much to do that. And that's why I was so disappointed when people went there and pilfered the place. It's like, it just ruins it. It's not what it's about.
There's a love and a passion for what you're doing and the animals that you're looking after. It's not about profiteering, so to speak. Yeah, makes sense.
And I think it's a funny ground I'm in, where like I need to make money to stay alive and do what I do. So it does help with that too. Like I need to pay. I've got staff members. My electricity bill's about $1,000 a month. It's like, like all these different things. That the fish, they need to pay for themselves in some way, and you want to do that in the most.
I mean, if you can show somebody to a different way of enjoying the hobby, that somebody that maybe doesn't have the money to go buy fish, if you can show them a way of enjoying that hobby and getting them started, and then further down the line they will then turn, it grows their hobby. They might never start the hobby because of their current situation, but giving them a way in for free gets them in the hobby, and then it grows from there.
Yeah, it's like it's a cool community too, because like some guy will have one of the rainbows you want, and you'll have something they want. It's cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's just swap them up. Like, you're probably, if you get a mop, you're guaranteed to get males and females at the end, like almost guaranteed. And the cool thing is it's disease-free for the most part. So you're going to end up with disease-free fish and no risk of tuberculosis or anything like that. I mean, if you raise them correctly. I just think, I don't know. I just think it's really good. Like, they're just so cool. Like, they should be what the hobby's about. Like them, I think rice fish are a great one too, because they're the same sort of group. You can sell a bunch of eggs. Killies are good too.
Killies, yeah. That's the only one I've heard about eggs getting sold. I've never heard them with rainbows or anything else.
Yeah. Neither have I. I saw on your website, and I said, "Oh, that opened my mind and thoughts." And it's a fantastic viable option for someone that wants a specific species, specific line. Happy to bring them up, and away you go.
Yeah. So like once we discontinue, so we've got a few different varieties of rainbows. It's only really worth breeding things that get color early, and where the males and females both have color. Otherwise, we're going to end up with a bunch of female salmon reds at the end and then not be able to sell them. So the solution for that is we do one batch, and then we're going to have like a group of rainbows, which are going to do nothing for the next 6 months until we decide to make the next batch. During that time, a way to make some money out of the group is to sell the eggs, because they're going to be breeding the whole time. So if someone wants them, cool. All right, $70, I'll send you some eggs. You get 50 eggs. Even if you get half of them to come up, you get 25 for $70, and it's healthy. Like I just think it's a better way of doing it.
Fantastic option, absolutely. And you don't have to have an abundance of fish that just aren't going to move. You get to keep your original parent adult colony with no disruption. Like it's a fantastic option.
I think it's really cool. And then really easy to ship them too, just in a little thing. Boom, out they go. Well done.
Have you found that there's been a quick uptake on the option of buying eggs over live fish?
Or I haven't found it.
It's going to take time to grab on.
I haven't found it. But 1 sec.
Yeah, go for it.
Awesome. So remind me when I edit the podcast that I've got to cut this bit out of it, because otherwise it'll be dead air and we'll be talking about me editing the podcast while we're waiting.
Okay.
And sorry about that.
That's all right.
My mum was asking me to come make her a coffee. That's one of the deals I have with her. So I get to leave here for free, but I have to make her a coffee every morning. But
that's cool.
No, it's nice. I like doing it. You got to take care of your mum. You only got one mum, so.
100%.
But yeah. So what were we talking about again? The uptake of rainbow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, I only sold one group. They're not a very. I mean, I think they're a cool rainbow. They're nothing crazy. They're nothing fancy. So there was one guy down, I think, in Melbourne who bought a group. If he's watching this, you'll know who he is, because it's one dude who bought them. That's somewhere there's no real native fish around there, or like not native, like the ones we have up here. So he probably bought them out of interest or for a community tank or something like that. But I think like if we get into some of the rarer ones, for sure, 100%. But then it's people want to get what they pay for, and people want instant gratification these days. So a lot of people just rather buy the fish, I think. I mean, if I have the option as a breeder to buy eggs or a fish, I'm going to buy the fish. Like, that's my honest opinion. Yeah. Unless
what's the appeal for killifish breeders? Because they sell eggs all the time.
I think that the killies, it's like, that they're annual. So you've already got a certain amount of life expectancy. So if I buy fish, they could be a year old and at the death's door. But if I buy the eggs, I know I'm going to get a year.
You get the full lifespan.
Yeah, and I think they grow heaps quicker. So like, it's not like I'm waiting a year to get a beautiful, colorful fish, and they're probably easier to raise. Rainbows they're easy, but they're not the easiest. Like, they're tiny eyelash fish. So yeah, that's probably why.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense, actually.
But yeah, I'm not big into killies. I've only got one type. But I love the idea. Like, I really love those people who do that. Like, just selling eggs to each other and collecting them, and little fish, colorful fish.
Oh, they're the most stunning, colorful fish around.
Yeah, they're cool as.
Not a fish that I particularly have any interest in personally keeping myself, but I can absolutely see the appeal in them.
Yeah.
Hey, you just mentioned Melbourne before, which actually triggered a question in me, which I didn't have written down. Do you notice different regions of Australia liking different trends in aquariums or different fish or plants and things like that, or is it kind of just broad spectrum all the way around?
Definitely. I think so. Like, because there's regional interests, but I don't know what they are. I only know a few people down in Melbourne, and I'm actually going to go to Melbourne next month and go and check out some of that stuff down there. But I've got no clue what they like. I know there's a lot of good pleco breeders down there, but it'd be hard to get into those fish rooms because they're so private. But yeah, like for sure, like you see it in the US. I think Florida people have a different environment, so they keep more different things, and then northwest and northeast just keep different things. So yeah.
Cool. What are you currently?
Sorry, just before I'm going to have to head off.
Yeah, that's fine. I appreciate it. No, thank you for thanks for letting me in.
Okay, I just need to go, and I won't be back for about half an hour or so. So I'll speak to you afterwards. Okay.
No, all good. We'll stay in contact. See ya.
Cheers. Bye now.
No, all good.
Cool. What are you currently keeping in your breeding room or producing on sort of numbers at the moment? Anything?
Yeah. So right now we're smashing out Bosmanis. Yeah. So right now we're smashing out the Bosmanis because I've got a really nice color, and I want to preserve that. So we're definitely going to make the best Bosmanis. And then what else are we doing? Lots of prairie cocks, like a ton of rainbows right now. And then we've also done peppermints, a lot of peppermint bristlenose. They're a great for us, they're a really good, viable commercial fish because you get 8 times the price of a normal bristlenose for just a little bit of added effort. So they're pretty good. Opistos, a few different opistos, like just standards like cacatoides. Those ones I found not to be that great commercially because it's the same issues as the rainbows where you get uncolored females and you get a really cold fish room, you end up with all females. So
you just spoke up for a quick second then when you're talking about plecos of some description, what sort were you saying then?
Yeah, just the peppermints. So so peppermints are like I think they're still part of the Ancistrus group, but they take about 2.5 years to reach sexual maturity, and then they also are a little bit of a trick to breed. So we've got a designated rainwater section of my fish, and no, all good. I got
having some pretty.
Sorry,
having a bit of I think we're having a bit of technical issues here. Just as you started talking about the peppermints, so we know scratchy again.
Oh, is it me or? Oh, I've got hotspots, so it should be all right. Sure. Yeah, no, we'll just leave it. So I was just saying, so peppermints are a real good one. They're, good price. They just take 2.5 years to get to sexual maturity, which is a bit of a pain in the butt. But we've got a whole rainwater segment of our fish rooms, so we can just turn the tap on, and then you get filtered rainwater, and they just love it. So for us to trigger them, is feed them up really well on their greens and their all that stuff. The females get nice and fat. Turn on the water change for 25 minutes to a 90% water change. Leave them. If they don't breed, do it again the next day. Just do it until they're spawning. So
Do you have because there's peppermints and starlights? We have starlights over here, and the peppermints lose the white seam. Is that right?
Yeah, they lose it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I do have peppermints, and yeah.
So do you guys have starlights over there?
No, I don't think so.
Just the pep.
Surely, surely some dude has it. But I don't know.
Yeah, my friend that was over there came back. It's amazing the price. He was producing massive amounts of peppermints when he was over there first time around, and he was blown away that he couldn't find any peppermints over here because it was so easy for him to get hold of, and he had so many of them, and he was producing, and it just blew his mind that he couldn't get hold of them here. And it's just the differences between what's in one country and what's not.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. Going lots of rainbow fish, peppermints, and if you're pistos doing like corridoras or tetras or anything like that, or are they not really worth?
Yeah, we got cories. We got heaps of cories actually. I found, so I started the fish room basically at the start of summer, and for the back half of winter, like we had a few fish in the fish room, like cories and that, and I was like, again, taking that for granted. As a fish producer now, I have to go from being a hobbyist to acting as a farmer, and you have to, as a farmer, kind of deal with what you're given. So it was getting really cold at night, and then the temperature would drop, and the cories would just spawn, like, because they're in rainwater, and they just explode with eggs. So I was getting hundreds of panda cory eggs every day. But as the temperature kind of reached 25 to 26 degrees in the fish room and wasn't dropping below that overnight, they've just completely stopped. So we have them, but I think we're waiting until it starts getting a little bit cooler in the fish room, and then the rainbows will probably slow down a little bit, and then we can start doing more cories. And it's just going to be like whatever we can. Yeah, and like that's why I was having conversations to my fish farmer friend yesterday. It's like, why fight uphill? Like, why pay for heating and all this stuff to try and do something when it's cheaper to make something else and get a similar return? It's like, I could make all the things that I want to make, but that's not what the fish room's about right now. Like for me, if there's something I really want to do and make videos on, I'll do it. But like, it's about, for me, I'm passionate about making a lot of fish and making a lot of healthy ones. So yeah.
I guess the logic's very similar to eating seasonal vegetables when they're cheaper. Produce a lot of cories when it gets cooler, enough to hold you throughout the whole year. Produce the rainbows when it's warmer, enough to go through for the whole year. And then as that season changes again, you bring your numbers back up. If, of course, you've got the space and the capacity.
Even like trying to not hold them for the whole year, just get rid of them when you got them. Because you never know if there's a fish die, it's easier to just sell them and then make sure that they go to a really good home instead of like hold on to them and all that stuff. Like, you can try and time the market, but you'll always be thinking, I should breed that, I should do this and that. It's I get so sick of having these conversations with myself, like, I should be doing this and that. Like, nah, Nick, just don't worry. Just like try and make something. Like something's better than nothing.
Produce something.
Yeah.
Are you playing around with any tetras or anything like that, or you not working with them?
No, I'm not really like bothered to try and do it. I think at some point, like, I made this really popular video breeding tetras. For me, like earlier on in the chat, we were talking about following your interest.
Yeah.
At that point in time, that was my interest, and now it'd be a lie to myself to try and do that again. So I'm waiting until I find some sort of interest where I can do that again. But yeah, like, I mean, at some point I'll probably try and breed tetras again, but no, I'm not bothered to do it. I mean, we just buy it.
Yeah, cool.
Nah, it's just, yeah.
Glenn wants to know how your zebras are going.
They're good. I haven't lost one. But I had them trapping, and then I was talking to my pleco mates over in Europe, and they were saying that they're 2 males trapping. So it was actually, in fact, 2 males. So I thought I had female. It's just a nice big juicy male, and he was getting trapped in the cave, and so I had to take them out, separate them out. I've still got them all, but I just cannot, for the life of me, get them to breed. And I've got the feeling that they're all male. You know, just
might have been dated with a group of males.
Yeah, I think I got them at the size where people can tell. You can't tell by their adonas, but you can tell by the sizes of them. So if you get a batch, you keep all the smallest, and then you sell the biggest, and that's how you keep all your females, and that's how you get rid of females. Yeah, and look, people are like, I'm not one of these guys where I'd do something like that, but people are. I mean, it's just
it's human nature to try and protect their investments as well, and people see it as investments.
Especially some country like ours, I don't know. I went to New Zealand last year. I went to Queenstown, so that's the classic tourist spot. We went skiing with my mates. So there's no fish stuff, but over here we got that tall poppy syndrome, and that's like, I think that kind of follows through. Like, you don't want to see other people succeed. I think we feel Aussies for some reason feel threatened by other people's success, and there's a bit of a scarcity mindset where like we think because someone else has something, it means we are without it. I find myself falling into it. It's been ingrained into us since we've been at school. Like it's a really toxic way of thinking. But yeah, people do that with their fish. You know, if someone's breeding that, oh, screw that guy. You know, like I was going to breed that. I'm going to be that guy. I only want to be the only guy breeding it, even though there's plenty to go around.
I think that's ingrained over here as well, very much so. And there does need to be some barriers broken down regarding inclusive and you know, we're all kind of in this together, and hey, man, awesome, you're producing that, fantastic, you know, good for you, well done. What tips can you give me so I can have a go myself, sort of scenario? Like I was saying before, the old boys network of, I'm not telling you how I did this, work it out yourself. It just needs to disappear. It's not.
It's like
grow and support.
It's so prevalent. Like, even, you know, I'm not one of these guys. I think on YouTube, I've never, like, I can honestly say I never did YouTube to be famous or anything. Like, I'm not famous. It's just like I make really good videos, I think, and I think that they get views because they're good. Like, and that's what I try and do. I'm a dude that likes fish, and I like making videos, and why wouldn't I try and make the best videos? But even as that, people feel threatened, and they're like, oh, look at this guy, like, making his YouTube videos, like, fuck him, he's like, you know, this and that. Like, it's just tall poppy syndrome, and I'm really good at blocking it out. I couldn't give a crap, you know, it's my job. I like doing it. I think I'm good at it. I know I'm good at it, and it's nice. I'm not arrogant. It's just like, but people feel threatened by it. Like, so that's just how Aussies are, man. You know.
No, it's Cameron. Pretty much the same here. Cameron's a aquarium shop up in Auckland. We talk all the time, and he's right. It's very much the same here as well. I think I don't know if it's a Australia and New Zealand only thing, or if it's a worldwide thing. But I totally agree with you.
I don't think it's worldwide, because I've seen Americans, and Americans are great at recognizing success almost too much, I think.
Yeah, it's a good call. Yeah.
But they, you know, they boost each other up. And they're really good at. It's like almost one big team. Besides, you know, you got we're not going to get political, but they got red and blue, whatever states.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I feel like Americans are really good at being one big team. Here we're just not like the same. It's like they see success, and I think maybe because there's such a big population of people, they know that there's plenty to go around. But here it's like success is so it's not abundant. Like, people, you don't know many people who are like world famous, or it's like you don't know many people who are making $5 million a year. It's like, so I think like maybe that's got something to do with it. I got no clue. Like,
possible, and it could just be population mass all on it, which I find funny. Like you were saying, how big America is compared to Australia. Like, we look at Australia and go, well, like Sydney's got more people in it than our whole entire country. So
yeah, no, yeah.
Which is
I love New Zealand. I love New Zealand. I've been to Auckland, and 100%. I reckon next year and a half, I'd love to come across and meet you and meet all the other shops.
Please don't judge our country just on Auckland. And
I
apologize if any Aucklanders watching.
No, I loved Auckland, but I'd love to come across and check out the setups and the hobby and all of that. I really want to explore all that side of the fish keeping stuff and video making stuff.
Yeah. How's your transition been from basically a hobbyist video maker, YouTube, I suppose is the right term, to then going into business? Has that been a weird transaction? Has it been seamless, or do you have business background or anything like that?
I've always so the last fish room was definitely designed to be a fish room to make money. So that was still a business for me. But I was meant to, when I was upgrading, I was just meant to make another fish farm sort of thing.
Yeah.
It just so happened that like I said, you follow that interest, you follow your gut feeling. I got to this spot when I was checking out spots for the potential fish room. It's like, oh, this would be a good spot for a shop. Oh, I'll just put a shop at the front. And then I just kind of fell into having a shop. My shop's nothing fancy. It's small. It's 16 meters squared or something. It's crazy tiny.
Yeah, that's small.
It's very small, and it's only really about fish. So like I get plenty of rude wholesale reps come in, and they've been told to go out to me because someone's seen me on YouTube, and they come out to my shop and I'm there, and they're almost like rude because I don't sell dry goods and stuff so my shop's real tiny. But yeah, I found the transition to be easy enough, but something I've struggled with is my time. So right now, sorry, my time's better spent I think making content and videos, and I'm spending a lot of time in the store and changing water and all these things, and so I'm slowly getting that time back and paying employees to help me with that and building up a little team of people. And I've already got a couple of great staff members. So that's part of
time is a tricky one in business, and you can only stretch yourself so far. You can only do so many tasks at once before some of those tasks don't get completed really well.
Yeah. One of the fish farmers I'm friends with, he's done it for 40 years, and he says it's like a South African dude. Nick, you will always be time poor as a fish keeper. It's something. It's like it's the only thing you don't have unlimited of. You always can make unlimited fish. Yep, but you can always have enough time. So
yeah, totally agree. And I don't know how many times I've said to my wife, I've just got to stay late to catch up, and then I get here and I'm at least 2 days behind where I had to be already anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and that's the goal. So I've already outsourced my editing. So for my YouTube, all I have to do is make sure that I make the best video and record the best video, and then that's all taken care of for me. So I've just got to be creative. I've got to think of a title, a thumbnail, and all this stuff, and package it up and give that to her. And then I've got a shop manager now, so from the shop manager, we need a few people underneath just to help with the general maintenance and packing up orders and all that stuff. And like you spotted a mistake on my website, I probably need someone as well to help do my website for me. And then I can kind of sit in the top and just move the pieces around and make sure that we're building a good team of people. Yeah, because like my goal is not to be this huge shop. Like I don't want to be this guy selling one of every single type of fish and like the biggest Australian retailer. My goal is to be the best YouTube channel. That's what I'm passionate about. And I think like we're making a few moves into like I'm going to start doing my own product. So we're going to probably start out with a fish food and more move into that brand side of things rather than like be a distributor of product. We'd rather just like be the leading. Like I'd rather just be the guy who makes the best fish videos and has a really good brand of fish food and a few other different products. And I think that's the way it's probably going to go for me.
Sure.
So, yeah.
That makes sense. And part of parcel, you've got enough fish, just using fish food, for example, you've got enough fish there to play around with and experiment with
exactly
what doesn't.
It's for me, like keeping fish simple shop and breeding facility kind of doesn't fit into what my goals are, but it does in a weird way where if I can get it, like I said, washing its face and it makes me a bit of money, cool.
Yeah.
That's great. It allows me to make videos there, and it's like a headquarters of like, let's test the food there, let's breed this here, let's try this out. And I think it fits in really weirdly, but well into like what I want to do.
Almost feels a little bit like a stepping stone in the direction you want to go.
Yeah.
Just a bridge that to the next point sort of thing.
That's the goal. Like if I can, it's like, it's just like a testing area. It's like, I don't know. It's like how do you describe it? Like a race car track for like a car company. It's like the goal. It's like, the race car track might make a little bit of money, but like, it's not anything near to what the car company actually makes. It's more about testing out your products, validating them, and enjoying the hobby. That's a really important thing. Like, as long as I'm in there, feeding the fish, looking at them, exploring things, that's really important.
It's really easy to lose a hobby when you've turned your hobby into a business. It's really, really easy. I'm assuming Sue would probably have gone through a period like that. Cameron potentially has as well, and any of the other people that are watching that have got aquarium stores. It's really easy to lose that passion, and it's quite hard to find again. But when you get it back again, your heart just gets filled with, wow, it was gone, now it's back again, if that makes sense. So
that's why you need time off, because it's like 24/7 job, and you need a manager. You need 2 or 3 people to run a shop. You need it. It's just, people need time off. I need weekends away. I need to go and get away from fish. And when I get back, I actually am keen to come and see it. Like, so yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, I don't want to get to this point where, like, cool, all right, we might be the biggest Australian distributor and we're importing all these fish and selling them, and there's a perfect customer service team and we're making millions of dollars. It's like, yeah, great, but I don't want to be that guy. All I want to do, I kind of like being a little bit small and just, having a small group of people around me, and I just want to make some really good products. That's kind of what I want to do. I don't want to be like, I know that they'll burn me out. Like, that's not who I am.
You live it almost essentially 24/7 at some point when the hobby and business collide. You live the whole thing each day, every minute.
You've got it now where you've got a family. It's like, I haven't reached that stage of my life yet, but I know I will. And I know when I get to that I need to be present. Like, what's going to happen is, fish for me, like, they're my kids right now, but that's just going to get instantly shoved out. And then there's going to be something else completely in the way of me and my fish. And I need to be ready for that. And I know that, I talk to people who are genius business people, like my best mates. Like, they used to run Donut Kings and they used to do all this stuff, and they talk about getting down to the nitty gritty analytics. It's like, yeah, okay, all right, let's make some really good decisions, but how far into this am I going to go before it starts driving me insane? Because, like, all I want to do is just follow my gut, breed what I want to breed, and then kind of, just as long as I'm making good decisions on a day-to-day basis, I'm probably not going to end up somewhere I don't want to be. Like, we could focus on what's the average sale on the website. How can we boost this up $10? It's like, we're just going to keep running and chasing our tail. It's like, let's just pave the way and make something really cool.
Do the right thing, and the right thing will happen in return.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like, we've had a wee question from the floor. What sets you apart from everybody else, do you think? I suspect there's a passion aspect there.
I think passion, probably. Like, I'm very passionate about everything I do, and it's easy to have passion when you don't lie. So, it's truthful. I'll be talking about things I'm interested in. I couldn't give a crap about African cichlids, so I won't talk about it. But, yeah, I won't pretend to like them. I think that helps a lot. I'm also extremely, I'd say I'm a pretty hardworking guy, and I'm obsessive. So for me, what sets me apart, I don't know. I think the videos is definitely the biggest thing. Like, people come to the shop because of the videos, and then I've got, I think, a different style to everyone else with my videos where, I don't know, I just keep them simple, and try and really break it. I like breaking things down to like 1 or 2 things, like a bumper sticker statement of like, so it's easier for you to digest. So I think that probably does, or, and little things in the shop, like we quarantine fish, you do the same as me, making sure customers get what they pay for. That sets you apart. Maybe being a young guy, I don't know. Like, I think just passion is the massive thing, probably. Like that you can't put a number on. You can't fake passion. Like, you can't fake being passionate about something. It's very hard. And
correct. Yeah.
A lot of these YouTubers that fall off after 2 or 3 years, these people who aren't passionate about what they do, and they pretend it, and then it's just that they become fed up with it. Like we talked about before, the Neon Tetra videos and stuff. I could pretend to like to make those, but I know I'd hate it. Like it'd burn me out. I've already done it. It's like, why do it again? That would be going against what I'm meant to be doing right now. So yeah, probably that I'd say.
Yeah, I think passion is important. Very, very much so. Like, I'm really buzzing on guppies and platies at the moment, particularly platies. And like these are really simple fish that everyone at some point has most likely had them, but I've just found this new interest in them, and I've never had that before. And you know, when I'm talking about them to customers or with people, that comes through because there's that excitement there, and
Exactly.
you can't fake that. And
yeah,
2 months
exactly.
later, well, I'm not as interested in them now, but all of a sudden, these green neons, which I also think are really amazing, have really spiked my interest now, and that's where that is as well. So yeah,
good. And that's what it's all about. Like, because you're not going to be interested in the same thing as me, but the customers will notice instantly when they come in store. Cam's interested in these guppies. There must be something he knows that I don't. Like you will not. You'll be able to sell 1,000 more guppies, and you will be able to sell African cichlids if you're interested in guppies because you talk about it. And that's like the main thing. It's like, and then also something I've had to learn is moving on. It's like, okay, cool. All right, I'm not interested in guppies anymore, but I'm interested in this. I don't have to continue being the guppy guy. Let's just go to the next thing. Screw it. You know, I've got one life. I've got a finite amount of time. There's only a certain amount of time I can be here. Why waste it pretending to be obliged to doing something I don't want to be? Like, you know.
At the end of the day, it's got to be fun as well. And if you're not finding it fun, then why do it?
Like, yeah, exactly.
Hobbies are meant to be fun. Keeping fish is meant to be a fun, enjoyable experience. And if you're not enjoying, and there's so many aspects in the hobby, like every single aspect can have another wee drop down of what you can do with that as well. Whether it's, you know, like I'm not so that interested in breeding, but I really like setting up aquariums. You like breeding, not so much setting up display aquariums. So like even that, there's ones, and then whatever fish come through that, plants, stock, like there's just so much room for having fun and enjoyment.
And it's like I've noticed, like I keep talking about Jason, but he, you know, with his biotopes, it was kind of a bit of a weird thing for me to think about. He was like talking about, you know, he sets them up and he takes them down in a week. I'm like, what the, like, why would you do that? Like, you've just set them up. And he's like, oh, well, I don't have enough space to do all these things. So I've got to set them up, record them, and I've got it there, and then next one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's another way. It's like, oh, like I got that wrong. He probably leaves them for a couple of months. Yeah. I don't know. But he turns them over. Like, he doesn't have the same biotopes most of the time if he's doing projects. Like, they turn over. So, you know, you see MD fish tanks do that. He turns over things all the time. Just because you don't see it on videos. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, like that's the thing, like following your interest, following your passion, and being able to let go of things too. It's really easy. I think that's important for life too. Moving on.
Yeah. Sue's brought up a really good point. Slightly off topic, but still on topic, that quarantining is so important, and I passionately believe that, and I really wish that there was more stores after they get their incoming stock from the wholesalers to hold on to it for another few weeks and make sure everything is how it should be. It just produces a far better product for the customer.
I still walk around my shop and see plenty wrong, but
of course, absolutely, yeah.
I couldn't.
Can't catch them all.
No, but the difference it makes is you couldn't put a number on that either. I think stores that don't quarantine their fish, this is a bit of a harsh statement, but I think it's a dishonest business. I think I just do not understand how you can stand behind a product that you don't know is perfectly working. I just don't know how you could do it. Like, it just annoys me so much because these people, they get in before me on wholesale lists, so something cool will come in. Cool. Instantly, all the people who really want it are going to buy it from the other stores because they release it first. I'm at 2 weeks behind, a week behind, but mine don't die. So it's like, it works against me because you got all these people around me who don't quarantine their fish, and, you know, to each their own, whatever. Like, that's the way you've done it, and they're going to get offended by it. And I sell fish to people, and That's the way you do it. Cool. I don't care. It's just like, for me, I don't understand how you couldn't. I just like think it's like stupid. Like,
I sleep well at night knowing that I don't often sleep well at night, but I sleep well at night knowing that I do that, and the product that we're giving or selling has had that extra time, has had that extra care, and had that time to settle. So I feel the same way, because cool stuff come on. I bought some, they've bought some, they've sold. The majority of people that want it, well, now you've got them, but I still sleep happily knowing that I've spent that extra time and effort with them.
What other stores do you know of? I've got the same Neon Tetras because I sell them at a premium price because I know they're good, and then I won't die. You can have these Neon Tetras for the next 5 to 10 years. I know it. I've got the same Neon Tetras as the same day I open. What other stores have that? They turn their Neon Tetras over in 2 weeks. It's like, like maybe if I've still got them, I can lower the price. Cool. But like then I have to buy more. And then there's this never ending cycle of like bringing things down to a certain price. It's just, you pay for what you get. Like if it's, I don't know, right? Like having high prices helps for a few things. It's less turnover. And I think that means that the fish stay longer with you. They become more healthy. And I think, you're not introducing new species into the tanks. Like that's another thing that quarantine helps with. It's like you limit species coming in, which is potential for things to go wrong as well every time you do that. So
I guess there needs to be a bit of a caveat that there's some that don't have the room to do so. And I suppose to an extent there can be like an in-store quarantine. The quality of care still is significantly high, the inspections and the food going in and water change, all that kind of stuff, because at some places that just don't have the availability to try and do that.
But I think this is like where I disagree, where it's a thing you factor into the cost of doing business. So you designate a part of your shop, so you're going to pay a rent on that, you're going to pay water, electricity, all that stuff on it. Bump up the cost of your fish. Who cares? Your fish are going to live, and you'll be known for having the best quality fish. That's something I'd rather be known for than having terrible quality fish with dead ones in the tanks. It's just, I think if you can bump up the price, then it will cover that little area of shop. That's going to make your overall quality of business so much better. It's
pretty cool.
Yeah, I think like all these shops that do have, like they don't quarantine their fish, I look at all of them and I know instantly there's wasted space in their retail shop where they could just put a door and then they have a quarantine room instantly. It's like, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to be empathetic when people don't listen. People are ignorant. It's too much work. It's too lazy. And people are all in different positions. I get it. But like, I just have a hard time when people like who I used to be, like the little kid, buy a $50 fish they've worked 5 hours for and it dies. It's like, that is just so messed up. Like there's no other products that you don't buy a dog and it dies, you don't buy a lizard and it dies, really. Like you buy fish and they die. Like,
yeah, they are considered a consumable or a disposable consumable, which I think we need to change the narrative of. They're a living animal, but they're living in water, not able to be sitting in there and pet them. And I think that narrative definitely needs to be changed when it comes to fish and aquatic creatures and plants and stuff like that. Aquatic plants are another one. You buy them 3 weeks ago, they're dying because you're probably not purchasing proper aquatic plants, or someone's duped you somewhere along the lines, or something's not quite right. We need to work out a way of making this work so you don't have to buy plants every other week to make the aquarium look right.
You've helped me discover all the topics that I like to rant about today. But thanks.
I hope you're writing notes.
But like immerse grown plants. I'm like, oh, what are we doing? Like, why are we selling? Why do we expect people to continue to keep aquariums when we keep selling them things that would make them want to quit? Like, and tank, like overinflated tank prices for like aquarium kits, and then we just waste a bunch of plastic and buy a pump we don't need and all this stuff. So what are we doing? Like, why? Like, it's just this, it shouldn't be this way. Like all these huge pet barns and stuff, they sell $250 starter kit. I'm like, just go to a shop and buy a $70 empty tank and a sponge filter. And it's like $100, and then you got $150 extra to fill it with something cool.
Yeah.
The barrier to entry.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, there's a lot of gimmicky stuff. There's been a lot of marketing over the years that have warped the perception of what the right way in, if that makes sense. And
I think, you have product, right? And then part of your product is standing behind it. It's the message of, you cannot do this without my product. And every single aquarium company says that. You cannot keep an aquarium without my $400 canister filter. You cannot do this. It's like, no, I can, because I'm using, if I use nature and keep it simple, and I can, if I can make sure the aquarium works for me, then I can. Why do I need your stupid filter? Like, it's just a waste. You know it's a waste. You know it. If you kept fish, you would know it. It's like, you don't know it. Sales reps come in and they go, oh, come buy my filter, supply it in the shop. I go, I don't want to. It's like, and they're like, oh, well, what if we paid you to make a video on it? It's like, no one would watch the video. No one cares.
If,
and then they go,
Cameron's still watching, he'll have a little smirk on his face right now regarding bottled bacteria, because we've been having this conversation throughout the week. So I hope Cam is still watching. I'm sure he'll be having a wee smile or a wee giggle, and he might even mention something soon.
We sell bottled bacteria. I don't use it personally. I've got a staff member who does use it and stands by it. So I go, okay, whatever. You've got your own message. You make sure that if you sell it, that it works. But I've only got one type. What I do when I'm with customers, I squeeze the sponge filter out into a bag and say, just pour this mud into your tank, and that'll work.
So Cam's just, I'm not going to bring it up because he's used his potty mouth again, but he has basically said he was biting his tongue on that one. So I knew if he was watching, he would be sitting on that.
Oh yeah, sorry, I've used my potty mouth once or twice here, but I'm sorry.
It's happening now. I think prior to this going live, I was saying we've moved our time slot forward so we can get more time in. It's been nearly 2 hours, and I feel like we could probably continue for another 2 hours, but I've got to open my shop in about 5 minutes time. So we're going to have to cut it short or finish off.
Definitely.
Before I finish, there's always a thing that I like to call the School of Six, which is 6 really quick, short answers that I'm going to put you on the spot with. They're not going to be too bad, I promise. So the first one is, are we alone in the universe?
No.
Okay, cool. If you could have a meal with anyone alive or dead, who would it be?
Oh, Jesus. I'm not religious, but that'd be pretty cool. I think, I don't know. Someone like that.
Yeah. What do you think the dirtiest animal is in the world? If they could talk, which one do you think would be the dirtiest?
Crocodiles. I'd hate those things.
If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
If I what?
If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Breed any fish.
It's not a superpower, but okay.
Maybe fly. Or no, time travel. Time travel. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't think anyone said that before. Will you grow your dirty slug back again?
I tried it out for a few days last week and I shaved it off. So maybe November. I should do it for November.
Yeah, do November. Do November.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Or I can join you. I can't quite grow what you got.
Oh, this is nearly 10 years worth of growth, so it's okay. And lucky last, what? Sorry, I've just been distracted by the chat. What's your unicorn fish? One that you want to keep, have never kept, want to see in the wild, or anything along those lines? What would be a unicorn fish for you?
I think I've got my unicorn fish, but I don't know. That Cali Tower rainbow would be pretty cool.
And I'm just going to quickly reply to Jamie. Can the Warriors win this year? He's not going to say yes because he's a dirty Broncos fan.
Nah, dude, no way. I wish they could, because I want to see someone beat the top teams in the NRL. I hate the top teams mainly. I'd love for the Warriors to win, as long as, but I just don't see it. It's a poorly managed club, I reckon. But
please don't hurt me anymore. Please don't.
So are the Broncos. Don't worry about that.
That's the truth. All right, cool. So, got to shoot off because I've got to get the shop open.
Go and open your shop. Thanks for the chat. And I really had a good time. I had a fun time. It's been great chatting. We should do this again. And
keen as. Cool.
Let's
Thank
stay
you,
in
everybody
contact.
who was here. Have a good one, team. Happy fish keeping. Catch you later.
Easy.